Good afternoon. Welcome again to another episode of WCU Athletics Chalk Talk. I am your host, Jim Zulke, the Sports Information Director at West Chester University, joined today by the women's rugby head coach, Tony DeRaymer, and his senior captain, Grace Larco. Tony and Grace, how you doing today?
Hi, Jim. Doing great. How are you?
I am great.
Hi, it's good to be here.
WCU Athletics Chalk Talk is brought to you by Citadel. And now, Coach DeRaymer, I wanted to start with you. Just kind of give the fans and the people out there a little update on how you've been coping with this pandemic in the fall season, and with the cancellation of fall sports, how you've been staying in touch with the girls throughout this time.
Yeah, unfortunately, we haven't, had a season not only this fall, but last spring we play fall and spring as our season. So it's been a tough year for us. The girls, getting through, but it's pretty tough. So for me, it's just, I'm pretty close with the team. So we talk a lot via phone calls. We try to touch base with them, once a week, once every other week, a lot of texting with them, and we do Zooms once a week, weekly Zoom call where we all get together and we try to have a little bit of fun. We're not really trying to do any practices or any things like running or getting together and lifting or doing things like that, because the Zoom fatigue is pretty bad with everyone right now. So we're just trying to get together and have a little fun. So we're playing games with, we have some baby pictures we went through with the team. We tried to guess who they were. Grace and the other players on the team made up a Kahoot this week, and we were trying to guess who did certain things on the team. So we're keeping together. We're trying to get through this together, and we're having a little bit of fun when we do get together. So that's about what we're doing right now.
So Grace, kind of add on to that a little bit. What were some of those things that Tony was talking about? What were some of the things you and your teammates have been doing?
Besides we have a group chat, we all talk to each other and that, which is really nice because it is rough right now because a sport is like a team family and you really miss your family in this time. Every Wednesday at 3 p.m. we have our little meetings for an hour, and it really I think it lifts everyone's spirits. Before we go into the meeting, I know people are like, oh, another Zoom call, but then after you really feel better because you get to see these people that you would usually see more than your family, because when you're at school and you're away from your family, your team really is your family. We have a great family atmosphere, I would say. So just even being with someone on Zoom is nice to be with them.
I certainly appreciate you being on Zoom with us today. Like Coach said, I'm sure the Zoom fatigue, you don't have that Zoom glaze yet, do you?
Not yet.
See, that's why I make them for 10 in the morning,
Morning glaze, yeah.
Try to get to the athletes early, that's for sure. So Grace, talk a little bit about how you've tried to keep in shape for rugby. Very physical sport, you got to have a lot of conditioning, so you got to be trying to stay in shape, I'm sure. But what are some of the things that you try to do just on your own, if you can, to stay in shape?
I would say the biggest thing that I've taken up is hiking, which is really something I've never had time to do in Westchester. And in course in Westchester, we just have one path in the back of Stursbecker, but hiking is something that I've been trying to do lately a lot. And it's good because, you go on I'm hiking, all of a sudden it's 3.5 miles of uphill terrain, and it's just a beautiful view. So I would say doing things definitely outside and keeping away from people so it's easy to social distance.
Yeah, I guess hiking would fit right in there with that. Now when you're hiking up a mountain, or are you thinking, oh my God, I got to get back down? Or is it?
I'm definitely thinking, wow, it's going to be easier on the way down for sure. But it's just about the experience, and it's about something that's not exactly, it's different from rugby because you're not hitting anyone at all.
Yeah.
So I definitely miss that about rugby, I would say.
It's definitely giving their bodies some time to heal, I'd say. So any players
Yeah.
that we've had that have had any injuries or, have had a lot of time to heal up. So that's a good thing, I think.
Yeah. So, Grace, now, are you both rugby 15s in the fall and rugby 7s? Kind of explain that a little bit to the people at home. The difference between the 15s and 7s outside of really like the number of players on the field.
Yeah, so I would say 15s is like more of like a bigger game. There's a lot more hitting. It's slower, I would say, for that. And then usually it would be like less scoring wise. And then 7s is a much faster paced game. Again, it's only 7 minutes per half and a 14-minute game together, while 15s is an 80-minute game. So you really have to have that endurance for that 80-minute game. But then for 7s, it's much more like, I mean, your scores could be in the 50s because one after another, people are just scoring. And I would say for 7s, it's definitely more of we have backs, so more like a backline game, just because like they enjoy running a lot. But yeah, my personal favorite would probably be 15s. I've played 15s for about like 8 years now. Yeah. And I do play 7s, but it's a great mental game. 7s for sure, you can see the field better. It's a much wide range.
And Tony, kind of talk about, kind of expand on what she said and talk about the difference in the two games and kind of the difference in coaching when you go from a fall season to a spring season. And like you said, or like Grace said, it goes from, a more physical game to a more speed game in the spring.
Yeah. First, like she had said, 15s is more the game that people know in the States. However, 7s is played on the world stage in the Olympics now. So a lot more people watch it because 7s is a little more fun to watch because, like she said, it's faster. There's more scoring. 7-on-7, same size field. And if you break a tackle in 7s, you're pretty much, you're gone. So, the movement in 7s, the pace, the quickness, the speed of watching these fast players play is really fun to watch. So they've included it in the Olympics. In the last Summer Olympics, and it was supposed to be in the Summer Olympics this year and will be when they hold it. So it's a lot of fun to watch. So coaching 7s to 15s, it is really different. And the habits that we get in 15s, because a lot of 15s, when you have 30 players on the field, there's not a lot of space. When you have 14 players on the field, consider that you've got a lot more space. So in 15s, you're taking it into contact a lot. You're running into other players because there's just so many people around. You're not going to be able to get through them or around them or pass around them. So taking the ball in is something we do in 15s just to protect it. But when you get into 7s, you don't really want to run the ball in to players. You want to just keep it moving, keep the ball alive, and not take it into players. So trying to get that out of their heads is probably the biggest concern that we have. And they run it in and we're like, no, just keep that ball alive, keep it moving and to the open player. So it's kind of like just basketball when they're passing it around the outside to try to get it to the man so he can shoot. So it's kind of the same thing. When you get it to that open player, they've got some space. So that's one of the biggest things, I think. Also, like Grace was saying, it's a little faster, so it kind of takes away a lot of the forwards out of the game. Although we still need two props and a hooker, so the forwards do get involved a little bit. But again, it's more of a fast-paced game. It's get it to the fast player so they can run around people, and so some players come out to get the experience of the handling. And like Grace said, it's great for your vision because you can see holes now that are there. And passing around people and long passing is really important. So if you can pass the ball 15 yards, what you need to do in 7s, it's great. So the skills in 7s are great. And the vision is really great. So taking those away from 7s, we try to get everyone to still practice, even if they're not going to actually play in the game. So people come out and they just do practice to practice their skills.
And now, Grace, you said you've been playing rugby for about 8 years. Kind of describe how you got into it and, what really attracted you to the sport.
So I have an older brother and a younger brother, and my older brother started playing rugby when I was in seventh grade, and I watched him play rugby, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. I was playing softball since I could walk basically, and then all of a sudden my brother went to a tournament and there was girls playing, and I was like, oh my goodness, that looks so much fun. Like I want to try that. Like I want to do that. And we all So my brother's coach was like, okay, well, you can practice with the boys until you get enough girls, and if you get enough girls to play, then we'll get you a team. So I was going to practice with the boys and I was only in like eighth grade, and then I wrangled up literally all of my friends that had ever played a sport and not played a sport. I was like, come on, just try it one time. You'll love it. And then all of a sudden they fell in love. And then my ninth grade season, my coach was like, well, we have a girls coach for you. And then that's how it started. The first season we did lose every single game. but then after that, and then I started actually playing for Tony in the PA all states, and that's where I met Tony.
Okay.
My 10th grade year. So.
And then Tony sold you on Westchester, right? And so you knew right away you were going to Westchester.
Yep.
I've loved going to watch Grace play because she had great skills. She was a really good player on our team, and I knew right then I needed her for our team, and it's been great having her. She's just a fun fact. Grace is the nicest person on the team. Self-proclaimed. Self-proclaimed.
That's me. Hey everyone. Hey fans.
Yeah, every time we have a tour or she introduces herself to a new possible player, she's like, yes, I'm the nicest player on the team. She probably is, except on the field. When she gets the player on the field.
So Grace, I guess the question I would have is, did your older brother get in trouble for introducing you to rugby with your parents? Were they like, what are you doing?
Well, my dad was, of course, like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Like, women's rugby is awesome. Like, I can't wait. And my mom and my grandma was like, we're not coming to a single game. I think my grandma has seen 2 games of me in college, and she's just like, I just can't do it. I can't watch you play. It just looks so painful. And I'm like, Grandma, it's okay. She's like, you're not wearing any pads. And I'm like, it's okay, Grandma. So I would say my grandparents were definitely like, why don't you stick with softball? Like, you're good at that. Like, all you have to do is run around the bases. And I was like, no, like, this is so much fun. And they don't get it because they never played. Like, like, everyone that I've ever met that's played rugby, they're like, once I played a game, I fell in love with it, this is what's so amazing about the sport, I would say.
So you told him, look, I can hit somebody instead of hitting a ball.
Exactly. I was like, basically the same thing.
You know, it's a common theme among families that the father loves watching these girls play. Common. It's great. Yeah. And the mothers are just, mortified to watch it for the most part. But a lot of moms have been around it a long time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the girls that we're starting to get now have played rugby for 6, 7, 8 years now. So, which is starting to be something we see with the team, which is really nice. We still get a lot of walk-ons, which is great to tap into the players here or kids that come to school here and want to play some sports. But for the most part, we get a lot more kids from high school who have been here or have been playing, 5, 6, 7 years, which is really nice. So, and I think that's helped us, with our last year.
And kind of expand on that a little bit for me, Coach, if you can, is, probably the mothers are a little apprehensive because the opportunity to play the sport wasn't really there for them. How has women's rugby grown just in the time you've known it? I know you've been around the sport for a long time. You were a member of Westchester's men's rugby club team when you were going to school at Westchester. So you've been around the sport a lot, but how has the women's game grown as you've progressed?
Yeah, actually, the team was formed here in 1980, 81. It was a club team, obviously. Back then, it was formed by a couple girls. They had an Irish team in. The men had an Irish team in, and the girls went to watch the men's team, and they loved it. And so they wanted to start their own team. But however, there weren't too many teams back in the 80s for women's rugby. So it kind of disbanded for a couple years. They got it back. That's when I started coaching after college here in the 80s or 90s, I'm sorry. And it still was pretty uncommon. However, the United States was one of the countries with the most women's teams out there, which is kind of ironic, and probably people don't know that. But overseas, rugby for women was not something that was done by women in any country. So even in England, where rugby was founded, in all the southern hemisphere state or countries like Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa, like women, it was kind of frowned upon for women to play rugby, playing a man's sport, something really rough like that. So the United States was actually one of the places where the rugby was big. So that kind of transferred over in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, when women started playing rugby. And now you see the big teams like New Zealand and, Ireland and England teams or the Australia, and the U.S. actually is one of the best teams in sevens for women too. So it has changed a lot. Now it's just common in every country. And you see a lot of the smaller countries too. Spain has a really good women's rugby team. And so it's out there now. It's getting big and it's getting more mainstream. And they're on the TV too now, which is great. So we're getting a little more exposure for the sport as a whole. So it's growing, bigger and bigger every year, which we're happy about.
And so now, Grace, again, 8 years, you said you were playing the sport. Last year, you kind of reached the pinnacle on the college level, winning a national championship in the NIRA, the National Intercollegiate Rugby Association. What are some of your fondest memories of that year last fall?
Ooh, that's a good question. No, I definitely, did I peak last year? I don't know because we haven't played in so long, but no, it was just an overall an amazing season. Like, honestly, the moment we stepped on the field coming back from last summer, it was something definitely changed in the team. And I think Tony can agree with that. Just the level of playing from everyone was just so high. And again, every year we're getting more and more very skilled girls, like more skilled than I had whenever I was their age. And just like the practices were way more intense than they ever have been. People have been more focused. And honestly, I would say the most memorable game was probably at Queens. That was like our kind of trip over to the playoffs. That was right before the playoffs, right, Tony? That was I think that was the time that we were like, oh my goodness, we could win it all. It was just so insane. And just coming back in the championship game from 14-0, we were just never a team to give up. Maybe a second half team. It was just amazing.
So now I asked Haley Spangler this question during a basketball game. So I will ask you the same thing. You're down 14-0 at the half. What was Coach DeRaymer's Newt Rockne speech at halftime that turned everything around?
I'm going to be honest, a lot of the game was just a blur, but I would definitely say that he was just we focus on a lot of playing our game, and I think that's what really resonated to us is that 14-0 was not us playing. It was the nerves of being in the championship game, but I think he just told us to calm down and really pick up our heads and where are we at? Look where we've came from and accomplished. So I think he really just focused on relaxing, and we do really well. Our backline does amazing whenever they're just relaxed. And he told us to all relax, and then all of a sudden, it started clicking together from Kylie to Lauren to Autumn to Corinne. We all started working more as a unit together, and that's what we really needed to do.
And Coach, I guess I'll get your perspective on that. What was the biggest difference in that second half of the championship game?
I'm glad you asked that because, to be honest with you, it wasn't me.
It was Harley.
we like me as a coach, I like to ask them a lot what they think is going on in the game, how we can improve. So it was basically the things I said is like Grace said, like we spent a lot of time preparing for that game. I mean, a lot. We watched film over and over and over, and we knew exactly what they do in what situations, but we weren't really playing our game like Grace said. We wanted to do certain things against them, and we weren't doing them. So, I let them speak first, and then I came in at the end and said, just play our game. We've been up, we've been down before. Let's do it again. We got the win now. Let's go. So I really didn't, say a lot of stuff in that halftime. I let them talk. I let them, take the lead, and it worked for us. So it really, really wasn't me. I just injected a little bit of support there and said, we can do it. So.
Did you notice something like early in the half where you thought, okay, things are starting to come together now? Was there a point in that game you were like, yeah, okay, this is kind of the Westchester rugby team I'm used to seeing?
Yeah, and, that day it was really very cold, very, very cold. And, getting out there and after halftime, and you could just see the turn of the game starting to happen. We were starting to do things. We got quicker ball. You asked me what the change was in the game. We started. So the slower you get ball coming out to your offense, the more time the defense has to set up. So you get a tackle, and if it comes out quickly, the defense is scrambling, and they're not set up, and that makes holes that you can run into. So we started. I've been watching a video, a lot because I love watching it, but you could tell in the first half of the game we weren't getting – our ball was very, very slow, and their defense was setting up and able to tackle us a lot, behind our line. But in the second half, you just saw the ball coming quicker, and we had these holes to run in, and we started doing that, and that's our game. Our game is quick ball. Our game is find those gaps and run into them and put the ball into that space, and we started doing that. So that's – once I started that first score happen, I looked at Coach Ariel and I thought, here we go. Once we get that, we're going to start rolling. And you saw the tide of the game start to turn. Like we had all the ball. They had a lot more penalties against them. We had possession. We had territory. And then when that second score went in with Haley scoring, you just started to feel it again more and more. And I looked out at that team, and I could tell they were like, we're going to win.
They were done, yeah. Brown was like, they're done.
Brown was gone, and I could feel it in our team. Like we had that momentum. Momentum's huge, and getting that momentum. And we had a little bit of wind behind us too, which helped us, keep the ball in their territory. And Kylie did a great job with her foot and keeping it out of our end. And the team played great. So with possession in the second half, and yeah, it was amazing. And after that third score, all we had to do was hold on, and we did. There was a couple moments of fear in there in the last 10 minutes, but we held on and brought it home. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was the worst 14 minutes of my life. I would definitely say 13 minutes and 10 seconds, I think it was. It was the most stressful I've ever been in my whole entire life, was those last couple minutes on there where we just had to hold them.
The reward was great, wasn't it?
Very good.
So Grace, I've heard Tony tell the story about the preseason polls and where you guys were picked, and the banner that hung at the rugby pitch at home. How much of a motivational factor was that you guys were picked fifth, that you were going to basically run the table because you went undefeated, you were 11-0. How much of a motivational factor was that? And was that something you guys made a point to remember going into every game?
Can I ask something before Grace answers?
Oh, sure.
Well, that was my doing. I was the one who was very upset with the fifth place ranking. Now I use that as a motivator, but I'm curious too. So I never asked this question, but like Jim said, how much of a motivation was it for you? I mean, I know it was for me as a coach, but I'm curious. Thank you, Jim, for asking this, but I wanted everyone to know that that was just, me being motivated by that, and I wanted to motivate them. So I never asked, how was it? Was it honestly something that motivated you guys?
Honestly, I would say 100% yes. Whenever to see how angry Tony was at this ranking, and then to look at like teams that we thought were just like so below us be above us was so humiliating. I was like, are you kidding me? And then Tony did the best thing. He hung it right on our practice field bench, like fence. And every single day that I walked past it, I'm going to be honest, I looked at it and I was in disgrace every day. And I made it a point to do it every day. And I remember just every day walking home with some of our teammates, Kylie Chorus, every day, me and Kylie would just look at it and just shake our heads and maybe just give them a finger and just think, oh, like, that's not going to be us. Like, we're not a fifth place team. But like being underranked under like Mount, which is a team that's what I would say one of our rival teams, to be underranked them, I was just like, this is completely wrong. And I would think, and I would be anxious to see where we ranked now. Like, that was one thing I was really excited to like see where we were ranked this year in the polls, but we didn't have a season.
And what's the problem with that?
I think you gotta.
I hope we're number one at this point.
Yeah, and now everyone wants to beat you.
Yeah, well, that's fine because they can try.
I'm
just saying.
I'm glad to hear that. And what did I say before every one of those games that we played? I said, today's the day that we prove to this team that we're better than them, and that ranking was wrong, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, first game of the season, we came out and beat Brown, which is a total upset to everyone. I was definitely total upset to Brown, but we came out and went against them, and they were ranked. Were they ranked number one?
Two, I think.
Two, yeah, but still, like, I think right off the bat, we beat the number 2 seed in our section. So.
Yeah, we took it one game at a time. We didn't look ahead. We just said every game, and I think that's one of the things that made this team, special. Was we went out there, like Grace said, at the beginning of the year. I felt it. As soon as I walked down that hill the first day, people were on the field. They were kicking. They were passing before I was even down there. And I thought, yeah, this team wants it, because I rarely see that they're out there, getting stuff done before I even walk on the field. And, I could feel it from the beginning, like Grace said. And I knew we would take it one game at a time, and we did. We did our research. We watched film all year, which is, we don't always get film. With rugby, it's like it's not a film exchange like in all other sports. So if you have film on a team, you're lucky. And this year, we had new referees. We had there's a professional league in USA Rugby right now called the I'm not sure if it's I better not say it and say it wrong. So there's a professional league in USA right now, and the referees are like really good referees, obviously. Well, that was their off season during our last fall, so they gave us the referees from this professional league. But they wanted every game filmed so that they could evaluate their refereeing. So every game that we played in NYRA was filmed and submitted onto a website so we could all access everybody else's film, which was really nice to do. So we could do a lot of research on the teams and watch what they do, and I think that really helped us too.
I guess that's one thing I usually ask coaches that win championships is there a point in the season that something happens that you say to yourself or you say to your coaching staff, this team's dialed in, this team's going to do a little bit more than the previous teams? Was there a point for that, Tony, for you or no?
Yeah, it grew as we went along. I think, like she said, it was a Queens game. They were undefeated. We were undefeated. We handled them pretty well, I thought. And one thing was our injuries. We had very few injuries. We only had one game where one of our starting players was out, which is very uncommon. In an 11-game season, and we had the same starting team for all 11 games. I mean, that's you can't beat that. So after that game at Queens, and I looked at Lindsay, our athletic trainer, and we thought, man, this is really coming together. It's really happening. We're all healthy here coming into the last 3 or 4 games. It's that time, and everybody's motivated, excited, and working hard. So yeah, you could feel it for sure. But again, we took it one game at a time.
Well, my question would be, to young girls out there, what would be your advice to get them interested and get them playing the game of rugby?
I would definitely say that the game of rugby is for everyone. It is not the easiest game, but everyone has a position that they can play, no matter what body type you are, how athletic you are. Like, there's just such a wide range, and literally, and that's great for something for women. Like, girls need to know that volleyball, I mean, you see everyone is over 5'7", and I'm only 5'4", and some of our smallest people on our team, like Lauren, my co-captain, she's 5 foot, 5'1", 5'2". So, I mean, and then we go from there's people that are almost 6 foot on our team. So literally everyone, different body types have a different position. It's so made for women in general. I would think that it's just something that you will fall in love with. Like I said at the beginning, once you play one game, you are addicted. It is an addicting sport.
I've kind of told people that when I was growing up, I liked ice hockey, and it wasn't really all that popular where I was from. But I told people, if you can go to a game, don't watch it on TV, go to a game. And a lot of my friends did, and they were like, oh yeah, this is definitely a different game if you're actually there watching it than if you're watching on TV.
Yeah, that's what we tell girls, just that are interested in rugby, come out, watch one game, and I will be sure that you will like it. There are so many walk-ons that we've had come through, and we're just come to a game and then just watch it, and then most people end up staying.
And so, Tony, kind of along those lines, you said you do have a lot of walk-ons, and Grace, said there are a lot of walk-ons on the team. What do you tell those girls when they first show up and say, hey, I've really never played rugby before, but I'd like to give this a shot? What do you tell them? And then what do you kind of look for in them to kind of put them in a position to be successful?
Yeah, the first thing I tell them is we'll take care of teaching you everything, from the beginning to how to pass, how to tackle. So don't have any concerns about that. A lot of them are what about injuries, things like that. But we talk about it, a lot about, we have them talk to the girls. And I think the girls on the team are probably the biggest thing that keeps them out, because they're so helpful. They don't look down on the girls because they've never played rugby before. They're, in fact, the opposite. They come out and they go over and say, here's what we want to do. Here's how I can help you. This is what you got to do in this instance. So the girls on the team are really what they keep them out. They're the ones who, are there and reinforcing everything. And
how do you place them and find a position for them? Because obviously not everybody that comes out is going to have Cheryl Johnson's speed.
Right.
And you're going to say, oh, okay, yep, that's you. I know where you're going to play. But, how does that evaluation go?
Yeah, at the same time, I don't know what skills they have really at that point. When they first come out, I'll separate the new players who've never played before and the veterans, probably for a week, maybe a week and a half of practices, just because I don't want to integrate them together right away, because it would, having them tackle when they haven't learned. So we kind of separate them and have Coach Ariel go with them. Coach Ariel is really good with contact things, the rucking, the tackling, things like that. So I have Coach Ariel work with them with that. I usually work with them with ball handling for a little while. So then after a week and a half, we kind of integrate them slowly into the practices. And I say, hey, if you don't feel comfortable, doing this drill, you don't have to get in. But the majority of them really want to hop in and learn. So when we kind of split up into our backs and forwards, I kind of just say, I look at them and say, hey, you go with the forwards, you go with the backs, because I really don't know what their skills are at that point. And then I tell them, or I ask them where would you want to play? And I let them make a decision, and, they go. And then I say to them, hey, if we decide that we want you to play in the backs, we might switch you over. So, a lot of it's me looking at their body type and making that decision, or allowing them to say, hey, I like to run. I like to have the ball. I'm good with, I got some good speed, go with the backs. So, it's kind of we kind of just, test it out and see what happens.
And so, Grace, one final question for you. Now, last year, the Westchester Athletics Hall of Fame put Steph Burkhart in the Hall of Fame, former rugby player from way back, right, Tony? From way back.
Yeah, way back.
But
she was one of the first team, right? 2005.
Yeah, she was the first team that went varsity. But I'm just kind of interested from a player standpoint. Did you have a chance to interact with her and talk to her about her experiences a decade ago and kind of how far the game has come? Was there any kind of interaction like that? And what was the team's impression to see that somebody that was a rugby player is being recognized by the university for some of their accomplishments?
Yeah, we were very, Tony makes it a point to make it sure that we're close with our alumni, which they're so great to us. And she was honored at the game, and she's I think she talked about how different it was back then compared to now, because we have much more, we have trainers, we have awesome coaches, we have an awesome staff and fitness people. So it's just it's really different, and we're really blessed to have all the stuff that we have now, and it's because of them, and they really set a pathway for us to succeed. And yeah, and it's awesome that the university acknowledged her too. It's nice to get acknowledged for, even though it's not me that's getting acknowledged, it's my sport, but my sport is us as together.
So now you were an All-American last year, so there certainly is an opportunity for you to come back in 10 years, right? Is that right?
I'll be back, Tony. Don't worry.
Tony, kind of talk a little bit, expand on that and talk a little bit about the Steph Burkharts, the Whitney Hartshorns, some of those girls that really, kind of paved the way for this year's team, and kind of how you try to let them know that, hey, everything you did back then was really part of us winning that championship last fall.
Yeah, they certainly did pave the way. They were, Steph was a walk-on as well. She was a soccer player before she played rugby, and she just, stood out. Whitney was a player who, I played in high school, which was nice. And they, like you said, they started the record books for the team, and both of them are still pretty high up on the record list. So, certainly players that I talk about a lot, among others. And like you said, they paved the way for where we are today. And we talk a lot about, I talk a lot to the team about them, and I let the alumni know all the time when I send out emails about our schedule. I'll send out emails about alumni weekend. And when we won the championship, I literally for several days I had so many text messages from alumni and friends of the team and things like that. It took me days to get back to everyone, because so many of our alumni were just so happy and excited. And I let them know all the time through emails and stuff that, hey, this is, you guys are the ones that paved the way for. And don't I say that to you guys, Grace, all the time?
Yeah, 100%.
Never forget, who started this, where we came from. They're still watching. They're cheering you on. They're supporting you financially here, with donations. And they were you're playing for them. When you throw that jersey on, you're playing for not only for yourself, but for the years past and all that we've gone through to get where we are today. So we do let them know. We had a Zoom call with the team. One of our first ones this year, we brought some alumni on just to talk about what it was like, back in their day. So just to get that interaction between the alumni and the team here now is important for me. and I think we do a pretty good job of that. I do a mentoring program I just started like last year. It kind of tailed off because of COVID, but I try to match a alumni up with a current player and make sure that they keep in touch. So I have several girls on that right now, but not all of them. So, we just try to keep those relationships going, and they do know that we've played for them. Even sorry to interrupt, even the founder back from the 80s, the girls who founded the team are still very close with us. They came out to alumni weekend all the time. They'll bring, they brought the old jersey out for us one year and gave it to me from back in the 80s. So I have that in a big frame. So they text me, they call me, email me all the time how excited they are about the team, and we love our relationships with our alumni.
All right. Well, Tony and Grace, I appreciate you being here today. We'll have to leave it right there because I don't really want you to get too zoomed out here, Grace. I know you probably have classes coming up or what not. But I do appreciate both of you taking the time to, get us up to speed on women's rugby and what you guys have been up to since you had that magical run last fall. Hopefully you can get out there on the field and defend that title and win a couple more championships.
Hope so, Jim. Thanks for having us.
No problem.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
So for head coach Tony DeRaymer and his senior captain, Grace Larko, I am Jim Zulke. We will see you again for another episode of WCU Athletics Chalk Talk.
Rams up.